Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. So today we're in part 1 of how to show you how to build Glassmorphism within CSS. Check this out. All right, so the first thing is we have a clean CSS file, right? We're going to start from scratch and we're going to build out a website application just using everything that we're putting within these classes, and then we're going to run it within TypeScript on our local host so you can see exactly what it's going to look like. And then part 2, we're going to amplify it even more. So the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we have default settings aligned properly, right? So we're going to do a start, and that's going to basically allow us to just create our baseline for everything that we want. We're going to create a curly bracket here, and then now we're going to write exactly what we want within it, right? So these are going to be our basic default settings within CSS. We're going to say margin is going to be 0. Do a semicolon. We'll go down to the next line here. Padding is going to be 0 as well because we want everything pushed to the margins, right? Box sizing is going to be a border box. And this is basically going to say, hey, keep everything within the margin and padding parameters that we have. It's not going to surpass it, right? So it's going to work in conjunction with it. And then we're going to say font family. And we have to determine which font family we actually want. So we're going to say this one here, and we can just delete this extra semicolon that we have. And now we have our first class. Okay. So the next is going to be the body and then the Flexbox. So we're going to call this body. We're going to open that up with curly brackets. We're going to say height, going to be 100 VH. And this is basically going to say, hey, force it to be 100% of the viewport height. Display is going to be flex. And that's just activating the control layout, right? Justify content, and we're going to say center. And that just adjusts the horizontal centering of this class. Then we have line items as well. And this will align it vertically. And we don't need this background color here. And we can move on to the next class. So we have the basic settings here. We have the body settings here. And now we're going to do another one. And always make sure you have a period in each one as well to start out with. Next, we're going to say is dashboard. This is going to be the dashboard container. We're going to say display. We're going to say flex. I'm going to say gap is 30 px. We're going to say flex wrap. It's going to be wrap. We're going to say justify content is center. So the dot dashboard is going to be how we target our wrapper class. And then we have flex, which is going to be the flex box again, but this time to arrange the items inside of the card. So we're making cards for everything, right? What we did initially before that was the body block. So the body was the placement of the cards, not what's going to be in the cards. And then we have gap at 30 pixels. So this just puts spacing inside between the two cards, right? So if we have multiple cards, we know they're proportioned properly against each other. And then flex wrap is going to be to allow you to see everything in a vertical standpoint versus horizontal, just in case that browser that you're operating on is too small. And then once again, to justify content center allows everything to stay centered within the middle of the screen. Now let's do dot glass card. And you can't have spaces here, which is why I put the dash. Open up that. We're going to say width. We want the width to be 350 px. We're going to say padding is going to be 40 px. Border radius is going to be 20. Background is going to be RGBA. Or I say 255. Keeps that repeated 3 times. And then .01. We're going to go on to the next one now. We're going to say dash WebKit backdrop filter. We're going to say blur 10 px. We're going to say backdrop filter. That's going to be blur as well. That's going to be 10 px too. We're going to say border 1 px solid RGBA. Then RGBA. And then we're going to tab that over. We're going to make this 0.2. Next is going to be box shadows. We can actually tab that over. It'll be 08320. And then the RGBA code here. We're going to say color is going to be F. That's fine. And then text align is center as well. Okay, so let's explain this one real quick. Okay, so now we're actually going to build a card. So for this block of code, it's going to layer the transparency. So it creates the illusion of like frosted glass. So we have the glass cards. We have the width is 350. So this allows the cards both to look identical, right? It's locking them in. The padding is going to be 40. So This just gives you some buffer around the cards on the edges. The border radius is just going to be a curved border radius. The background RGBA at 255 and then 0.1. This basically means that it's going to be 90% transparent. That's where that glass effect kind of comes in. And then WebKit backdrop filter, that's basically allowing you to use this for Safari. And then it's 10px, but it's also the same thing for backdrop filter. This is just for everything else, for Chrome, Android, etc. And then we have the border. So this is drawing a 1 pixel line border that is slightly less transparent to define the edges. Then we have the box shadow. So this adds a deep drop shadow to make it feel like it's kind of floating. And then we center everything to be within the card. And then we have the color of white as well to be pure white. And then now that we have all of this set up, now we're going to do the actual font within the glass card. So we're going to do dot glass card H2. We're going to open that up. We're going to say font size to REM. Go down to the next line. We do margin bottom is going to be 10px. And then that's it for H2. So this is going to target our headers. This is going to be doubling the standard size. And then this is just going to be the margin at the bottom at 10 pixels. The next one we're going to do is glass card P for paragraph. And then we're going to say font size is 1.1 rem. The color is HSL. So you can see what that means is hue, saturation, and lightness. We're going to open that up. We're going to do 210. 100%, and then we'll do 80%. And then we'll just add a margin to the bottom as well. And that's going to be 30px. So this is the entirety of our CSS code so far. It's not going to be everything because we have the rest in part 2. We have the global settings that we have here for our font family, box, margin, etc. This allows us to occupy the entire browser space, right? We have the body. So this is just going to say, hey, center everything that we have, and then this is just going to hold everything on the shelf for the cards side by side. We haven't built the cards yet, right? But this allows us to have them next to each other. And then obviously if it doesn't work and then you have a smaller browser, it's just going to move things to a vertical standpoint. So next we have the glass card. So this is where we actually build the illusion of the glass style effect and then create the transparency layer as well. And then now inside of the glass card, what we're doing is adjusting the font sizes for the heading and then the paragraph as well, so that we can be exact and exactly how we want every single thing to be styled. Okay, so now once we get into the TSX file, what we're going to do first is import it. So we make sure that we can bring in the CSS file by importing it and bring it to our main TSX. We are going to export the default function of. Now we're going to make some space for actually what we want to return within the browsers that we're going to run. So now we have to determine what do we want to return, right? I'm going to open up my div here. I'm going to say class name equals dashboard and make sure it's the right sentence casing. And we're going to close that. And now what I'm going to do as well is just close the parentheses because it's going to be kind of a pain to see all these errors all the time, right? I'm going to make some space here. And now we can write everything that we want to build within the browser here. So we have our parent hierarchy here. And now we're going to create the rest of our structure. We're going to make a new div. We're going to say class name equals glass card. We're going to close that up. You can see how it automatically writes another div because it's going to open that parent, right? So we have a parent within a parent now. We're going to say H2. Then we're going to write exactly what we want within H2. We don't have to define it within double quotations because it's not defining a class name. We already inherit all that here. We're going to say P. Now what do we want to write within the paragraph? We can just put whatever we want. Here we're going to put monthly revenue. And then now we can put H1 and whatever value we want here. We're just going to say 12,000. And then we're going to enter a break just so we have some space here. And then we're going to create a button. And this is going to allow us to view whatever we want. So we're just going to create a view report button. Now, in the next video, we'll actually make a class name for it, but we're just going to leave that like this for now. So that's one card. So we can just copy this, to be honest, and just paste it right here. Now we can change anything that we want here. We can change this one to be view users, and change this to be 18,000. It changes to be active now, and we could change this to be users, for example. We can bring that back in, and now we have our entire hierarchy set up. Class name. So we have the class card, class name that came in. So within this card, it should be all this text in here. Go back to CSS under this exact format. And then we have this class card, class name with this text in the same format as well. So now what I'll do is I'll simply select file. I'll save that. I'll just publish this real quick. Press commit, save. And now npm run dev, press enter, and we'll click on our local host. All right, so we can see now that it's actually running. However, this doesn't look right, because if I'm actually on here, it's not in the middle of the screen like we wanted, right? So there's one typo that I made. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix that real quick, and a few other things as well. So what I did was I just deleted the spacing I had between my class name and spaces within my double quotation as well. And then I went ahead and added my space after break as well over here. And then that results in no errors. Now what you want to do as well is go to your CSS and make sure anything that is a class name that you're making here for body, HTML, image, whatever it is a standard HTML tag. So we're going to go ahead and delete that period there. And then we're going to go ahead and run it. And now we have everything in the center. And the very last thing I want to do for the body, and this is how it makes sense, because as you do things, I would just save it so you can see exactly what's happening real time, right? You're not hurting anything because you're operating your local host. So I'm just going to do background. I'm going to do 24243E. Put that there, and we'll press save. And now we have the exact color that we want. And then you could also see that analytics, monthly revenue, and the total value are all populated along with the button as well. Now we didn't make the button fancy yet, but we will within part 2. But with that said, that's all it takes, folks. But hopefully you enjoy this video. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, thanks for watching.